What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Rich Nice back again. So today we're going to plumb our fuel system for our 5-3 swap. In the last video, in case you missed it, we got our fuse box that goes underneath the hood. We also took all the wires out except for A9 on the white connector, which is this big pink wire. And we left the gray wire in the red connector, which is F1. We left that in. And really that's all we really need to try to fire this thing up. One other thing you'll need is the starter wire, which is located in the black connector, which is connector 2. It's a purple wire. I don't remember which one it is right offhand, but I think this is it right here. That goes to your starter. But instead of taking that out and worrying about that, we're going to use a remote starter. This is just a little trigger, and it's connected down here to the top of the starter. Once we put power to it, I will be able to squeeze this, and this will actually start the motor, just like simulating a key turning. But before that, we need to plumb our fuel system. This is the top of our fuel rail right here. These are just quick disconnects. Basically, push it in, pull it off like that. So there's a little lip right here that this thing goes in right here, and it just goes on and it snaps on. We'll put our fuel line on here, run it out. This is the rest of the fuel system right here. So while I lay this out and show you what we're going to do, go ahead and watch this intro. Alright, YouTube, so this is our fuel system. So we have 5/16 line, we have 3/8 inch line, we have some extra wire, 12 gauge and 14 gauge wire, black and red for power and ground. We have a couple of connectors. This is our fuel regulator. As you remember, when I showed you on the fuel rail, this particular fuel rail does not have a return. It has a delivery, and then it crosses over and goes to the other fuel rail. So what this fuel filter will do is it will send fuel in here at the bottom, and then this will be your return going back to the tank. And then this will go from here out to the engine, to the fuel rail. This is from a C5 Corvette. In order to make these run, they need at least 58 pounds of pressure of fuel, and that's what this is regulated for. So this was like 32 bucks. Again, about all this stuff except for the wire, which I got at AutoZone, and the switch online. It does come with some 6AN connectors, and basically the way these work is you unscrew them like this, and then that piece goes on, and then you take the other piece and you screw it on the front of it like this. And then that will create a secure fit. Would help if I wouldn't have put it in upside down, but anyway, you get the idea. But instead of doing that and wasting our time with these, we'll save these when we actually get it mounted in the truck and get everything running. So the the inlet is a 3/8, which we ended up getting these push lock fittings right here for 3/8, and basically for the return we ended up getting a 5/16. And basically you push these on, they lock on, and you're good to go, and then you can just use the button to push them off, just like we did on the fuel rail itself. So hopefully y'all can hear that click. This end had a barb just like this one right here. So basically we didn't use this. We ended up using the barb here that has a 3/8 inch hole on the back side, and then we'll plug our hose into here and then run it from here up to the fuel rail. This is all temporary, so this is just to try to get this thing running. So nothing's gonna be permanent. For the fuel pump, normally these are located inside of the tank, but because this is a swap, this is our fuel pressure, or our fuel pump, should I say. And this is a Evo Energy pump. It flows 300 liters per second, and it puts out 145 PSI. Again, I got this off of Amazon. I think it was like $60 and some change. But we're waiting on a couple of parts to come in here for this and for this side. It comes with, again, these AN6 fittings. This is a M18 by 1.5 on this side, and a 10 AN on this side. And then it'll also come with this one, which is a M12 by 1.5 and a 6 AN on this side. So what I opted to do, instead of using these two, we'll get these, and then it'll have a Barb on the other side, so we can just stick our hose on with some hose clamps and be done with it, and then we'll hook positive and ground up to this, and we'll be good to go. Again, here's some more. Just these are the covers for the actual power and ground. When you put it on, that way you can cover it up. You don't have to worry about it. And I got this that's going to hook to our pink wire from A9. And this will simulate us turning the key on to give everything power once we connect it to a battery. So that's our fuel system. It should be pretty simple to hook up. We shall see. All right, so this is our return line. It's going to be the smaller of the two hoses. It's 5/16. It will go on, I believe, the middle one for the return. Just like that. This fuel pump right here, or fuel filter should I say, is regulated again at 58 PSI, which is what you will need to run your LS motor once you do the swap. Again, this came from a C5 Corvette. So now you know. And I'll waste my time with that when I can. So this will go to our fuel rail. This will go The bigger one will go to our fuel pump, and then this one will go back into our fuel tank or whatever fuel source we decide we're going to use with this. Also, you got to make sure that you ground this right here. This is normally where you would mount it, with this right here. So just make sure that we're going to ground both of these together, and then end up grounding it to the actual engine block itself. So yeah. So let me pull some wire out and we'll be good to go. All right, YouTube. To see if this is going to actually work, we got our wires hooked up. Positive, the positive is red. Black is ground, which is the blue on the pump itself. We got our ground hooked up over here on our negative, and then we'll touch our positive. We also got our ground to our filter and regulator hooked up, which we don't really need, but it's just hooked up with this alligator clip right here. This just to test it out. Again, this red wire right here will go to the gray wire that's in our red plug, and then that will turn it on once we actually hook up our switch over here. So let's see if this works real quick. Not sure if y'all can hear that. So yep, it works. So we are good to go there. So once these two fittings come in, I will be able to get a fuel source, and we'll be able to light this puppy up. So, all right, let me finish hooking the rest of this up. I gotta hook our ignition wire up and then go from there. YouTube, we got our gray wire hooked up to our fuse pump. That's what this red wire is. It goes to our fuse pump over here. We have our on-off switch that's hooked up to our A9, which is our pink wire that's located right here. The other end will go on this block, which will go on this lug probably right here. Just so whenever, or either this one over here, probably this one. Once we get power and connect our battery, then we click our switch and we should get power. So let me finish that and we'll be back. So I've used some jumper cables just to simulate us having an extra battery because I don't have one just yet. The batteries are hooked to our Megatron. We have our ground that's coming down here from the pump, which is this wire right here on this alligator clip, along with the ground for our regulator, hooked to the negative. On the positive, we have that connected to the battery. For the switch itself, we have one end that's connected right here on the fuse distribution block. The other end is connected to our pink wire, which is located right here. And I use these soldered butt connectors. You just use a heat gun to heat them up and you melt the solder, and then they're nice and solid and they won't come loose. And then you can melt the ends to keep them watertight. And then we have our gray wire, which is our fuel pump relay that comes out and is connected to our fuel pump down here. So once I click this switch, you should hear the engine kick over, or you should hear the engine turn on along with the relays and everything else, and then you should hear our pump. So as you can see right now, it is in the off position. So when I click it, our pump comes on, and you can hear our engine come on. Hear it? Now, theoretically, I should be able to come over here and grab our trigger that's going to our starter, and it should be able to crank it over. See? So now we just need a fuel source and this baby will run. So let's get to it. All right, before we get this thing started, we will take our serpentine belt off. That way we're not running all these accessories like the air compressor, the water pump, the alternator, and the power steering pump. The only thing we really need to do is be able to turn the crank itself. So I'll take this belt off along with the belt that runs the air conditioner. And then we'll be ready to go ahead and prime this puppy a couple times and let her come to life. All right, YouTube, hopefully y'all can hear me. We have Megatron running as our power source for our battery. We took our serpentine belt off, and then we took our secondary belt for our AC compressor off from back here. So right now we are good to go. Again, we have our switch, which will act like us turning our key on, which is here. This is our switch. Put that right there. Our fuel source is right now a 5-gallon bucket. So this is our fuel source. All right. We have our A9 from our white connector connected to our switch. It goes from the switch down to this post on our fuse block. We have our gray wire, which is coming from block 3, this red wire block, gray wire that goes down here, connects to this red wire that goes down to our fuel pump. This is our fuel pump. We have the direction of the fuel pump is this way. So as you can see, this hose sucks the fuel out. This is our return line. It goes from the bucket up here around into this regulator slash fuel filter, comes back out for return, goes through, comes up here and goes into our fuel rail. So I think that we are ready to go. We have our pedal right here, which is drive-by-wire. So I think we are really good to go. And one other thing is we have our trigger for our remote start down here. As you probably can see, it goes on the small one right here, and then it goes on this first big one down here. So that is how we hook up our remote start switch. So as soon as we kick on the power, you should hear the pump kick on and then it'll cut off. We'll do that a couple times to prime it. So let's see. As you can see, the throttle body will move, letting us know we got power. Down here, you'll hear the pump. So we got the pump on. All we gotta do now is start it. Just like that, that's how you start it. So if you have any questions, just leave them down in the comments. As always, thank you for subscribing. Thank all the new people that subscribed in the last couple of weeks. I really appreciate it. Next is to clean this up with some degreaser. I got a couple of oil leaks, as you can see. I think it's the oil pan, so we'll get that changed out, and then get some actual brackets, and this thing will be ready to get mounted in the frame. Again, it's work in progress. It's not perfect, but it serves the purpose. We don't have no leaks, so that's a good thing. Again, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Until we go on to the next portion of this build, one love. Peace.